Hey, Brian here with DIY Outdoor Life. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Delta 2 Max. The cool kids are calling it the D2M. This portable power station has become my #1 recommended power station on the market. It has to do with the quality, the features, the performance, the expandability, and they're delivering it at a very, very competitive price. It costs less to buy this product brand new than a lot of the competition that doesn't offer half of what you find in this D2M. So I'm really excited to talk about it. Let's get to it. Now, real quick, before we hop in with both feet into this product, I've been clicking that paid promotion button when I upload the video. That's why that icon comes across the screen. I do not get paid to promote these. I've not been paid to promote any product. But as the channel grows and people interact with these more pricey products and they use the links in my description, it does benefit the channel. So I thought that was just an abundance of transparency. My opinion is my own, it's honest, but I think you guys are probably exposed to enough commercials in disguise on YouTube that you don't need another one from me. But enough out of this, let's get into this Delta 2 Max. The Delta 2 Max is a 2050 watt-hour lithium iron phosphate portable power station. It's expandable up to 6 kilowatt hours, even a little bit more than that. And like all portable power stations, it's more than just a battery in a box. This is a top-of-the-line lithium iron phosphate battery that's good for over 3,000 cycles before it starts to fatigue. Even after 6,000 cycles on this battery, if you find a way to possibly get there, there's still a lot of useful life in this system. But in addition to that battery, as always, they're giving you a multitude of ways to charge, a multitude of ways to use the power storage that you have stored, and they're giving you a multitude of ways to monitor what this system is doing. Watts in, watts out, time to charge and discharge. There's an awesome screen, and there's an app that gives you total control over this unit. All of these components blew me away as far as the performance of these. We're gonna talk about those in this video, but what I'd like to do to start is to start with a more advanced feature. Try to keep it beginner friendly, but it's something that really sets this Delta 2 Max apart from the competition. The D2M has 2 large DC XT plugs on the side. They call these battery ports or expansion battery ports, but they are a lot more than that. You can purchase the expandable batteries. They're smart batteries from EcoFlow. This is the Delta 2 Max expansion battery. It's got a cool little compartment on the side, and this simple plug plugs into the battery port and adds 2 kilowatt hours to the system. There's 2 of these plugs. That means you can have a 2,000 watt hour system, 4,000 watt hour system, or a 6,000 watt hour system. You can upgrade as you go. You don't have to buy it all together. And they're backwards compatible. If you already have a Delta Max smart battery, it's gonna work with this. But they did come out with a new latest and greatest model. That's what I got. This is the Delta 2 Max system. For my more advanced viewers, you know what 6,350 watt hours means. For my absolute beginners, that's like the useful drawdown on 10 100 amp hour AGM batteries. That's how much power I draw off those in a camping situation. But 10 AGMs would break the axle on my trailer. So you're talking about a lot of storage here in a much more energy dense way. They're giving you a lot of features with that, but these are major, major capacities. It's about 5 Battleborn 100 amp hour batteries. It's a massive amount of storage. Even if you just go with the mother unit, just the Delta 2 Max, and you don't spring on the expansion batteries, that's a little more than like a Battleborn and a half. It's like 150 amp hours if you're viewing it as 12 volts. It does get more complicated than that, but I just want to put that in perspective for beginners that this is a serious amount of storage capability and it's modular. Take what you need with you, leave the rest when you don't want to carry it. That's an amazing feature to start off with. Now, lots of companies offer expandability now. It's a pretty common feature on your high performance power stations. But EcoFlow is doing a lot more here. You can use this port to directly power DC to DC some of the EcoFlow appliances. I just did a nice long video on the EcoFlow heat pump. It does off-grid air conditioning and heat, and it powers itself off DC. Well, this power station uses the same cable and can power that device. You have to understand how this works. There's no inverter loss for the AC conversion. There's no standby consumption, so there's less parasitic draw, and they're engineered to work together with the same DC to DC voltage. What that means in a nutshell is you get a lot more performance and you don't have to purchase the expansion batteries on those devices. There's a lot of pros and cons here. It's very, very impressive, but it reminds me of Apple, right? EcoFlow is being pretty smart here. You're not gonna be able to use a Blue Eddy to power that power station without going to the inverter. It's not gonna run that efficiently that way. So EcoFlow is sucking you into the EcoFlow ecosystem. There's a big incentive to stick with their products. Now, besides powering that DC to DC device, there's a last thing that I'll be using this for. I gotta save some money, but it's probably the most impressive of all. This DC plug will connect to the EcoFlow Smart Generator. It's a fossil fuel burning generator like any of the gas generators that you've seen on the market. But it's top of the line inverter generator, very quiet. But it plugs into this port and has DC to DC charging. It can charge this power station very quickly, but they communicate. So the power station will turn the generator on when you need it. It'll turn it off once it's charged. You have total control with the app to be able to get it to work like a hybrid car. The engine turns on, the engine turns off. When I was doing off-grid construction, the ability to not have to hear a generator all day long when you're just using tools intermittently, it would have been worth the price of admission right there. But I could think of all the uses for camping and off-grid cabins when you want to run quietly at night, but for a couple hours at lunchtime, you could power on that generator. Really, really cool stuff from EcoFlow. They are definitely out ahead on the innovation side, and they're not charging, you know, $1.50 a watt hour for the power stations. They stayed competitive with price. So, the best part about this power station, the reason why I got so excited about it, is if you don't care about this at all, it's still a good buy because of everything else that this does. You might want to look at this as some future expansion capability, but if you don't own any of that stuff, it's still a power station I can recommend. Now, with any portable power station on the market, when I'm trying to help people out, I want to know how they're using that system, and I make a recommendation on how well a product on the market can meet their needs and how that relates to price. It's always going to start with the battery, the charging, the discharge capability, and the communication. I told you that this has a top-of-the-line lithium iron phosphate battery. It's more environmentally sound, it's safer. You've heard me debate the life cycle argument. I don't need to get into that today, but this is the top-of-the-line battery that most people are looking for. They're also stacking it with some dynamite charging options. You charge it from AC, from solar, or from your car. There's 2 MPPT charge controllers, so you can charge it from your van and the solar at the same time. And we're going to talk about the capability and some of the speeds of this charging now. The AC charger on this D2M has basically maxed out the capability of charging something like this. It can climb up to 1800 watts. Now, you can't go higher than that because that would blow any of the outlets that you plug this thing into. So it's basically pinned that amount of what you're going to be able to draw. Of course, it's an inverter charger built in. All the new power stations are doing this. Simple cord here that's easy to replace. It comes with it. I think it's the same cable that goes to my television. So they give you a good heavy duty one, but 1800 watts has charged this thing 0 to 80 in like 45 minutes. Most of the time when you're using these, you're not running that full spectrum, but you know that 0 to 80 is always the fastest. So it charges 0 to 100 in like an hour and a half, but If you don't draw it down all the way, or you're only looking to charge it up to 80, 85%, you're talking 45 minutes. So it's right there as the fastest power station charging that you can do, even with that 2 kilowatt hour battery. If you have the expansion batteries plugged in, it charges those as well. It charges them very quickly, but with that amount of storage, obviously that takes a little bit more time. Now, there's a simple switch here. You can use this switch manually, which is really convenient, or you can adjust it with the app to slow the charging down. The app gives you even more control. Why would you want to do that? Well, maybe you have a gas generator that can't put out 1800 watts. Maybe you're tripping the outlet that you're trying to charge it from. So that high speed, low speed charging switch, very, very cool. Now, 2 MPPT charge controllers. Both of them are good for 15 amps at 11 to 60 volts. I had to double check that, I'm looking. If you plug a car charger into this, it's gonna max out the car charging outlet in your car. You're never gonna be able to get more than 120 watts out of that, or it'll blow the fuse in your automobile. So they're maxing out your ability to charge it that way, but that's gonna be like 24 hours to be able to top this off. I always view that as a convenience item. You're on a road trip, you can trickle charge into this battery. You can get, like 100 watts into it, 110 watts into it. And that does a good job keeping you topped off, but it's never like a primary source unless you have a day that you're driving around the clock. If you have a 24 volt source, a boat, a different type of automobile, or maybe just a 24 volt battery, you will cut that number in half because it's 12 to 24 volt car charging on this. Now, the solar array, 2 MPPTs, each handle 500 watts. This is different, and I really like where they're going with this. You're probably gonna hear some content creators be like, well, I just wish they allowed you to put 1,000 watts into one port. I have 1,000 watts in my backyard. Most people don't have that. And if you do have 1,000 watts, it's not that difficult to split it between the ports. The real advantage here is mixing and matching panels. If you don't have panels that are matched properly, they're only going to work as well as their weakest link. You match the voltage when you put them in parallel. You match the current when you string them together in series. So I've seen people with 4 solar panels add a 5th and the performance went down. It was doing better before they added the 5th. That's the problem with mixing and matching panels. It works as well as the weakest link. It'll bring the other ones down. Well, not when you have 2 MPPTs. My camper has glass monocrystalline rooftop solar. It has a different open circuit voltage and current than my portable panels. So now I can plug my rooftop panel into one MPPT and my portable panels when I need them into the other and get the best performance out of both. 11 to 60 VDC means you have options to string them in series. 15 amps means you can string them in parallel. Its ability to start charging on a single 12 volt panel, really an 18 volt panel, is impressive. A lot of the Blue Eddies are still making you use 2 panels in series, or what people call a 24 volt panel. There's a lot more flexibility with this MPPT, and I absolutely love it. Before we jump into the ways you can use that power, use those watt hours that you stored, you can dual charge. You can charge from the wall and solar. It does boost the numbers up tremendously. You can charge from the car and solar. And if you get into the app, you can even prioritize what it does. I'll have it draw solar when the solar's charging and it's free. When the sun goes down, if it needs more charge, it'll automatically click over to AC charging. Pretty cool stuff there. It's one of my favorite 3-way charging systems on the market because of all the options and the customization on the app. But let's move on to how to use this power that you've created. System has 4 USB-A's. 2 of them are the old style, 2 of them are fast charging. We use a lot of USB devices at camp. I would have liked all 4 to be fast charging, but having 4 USBs is really great. You also have 2 100 watt power delivery, USBC. This is getting really interesting. You can power your laptops, you can power tablets, fast charge those devices. My phone plugs into those even though it doesn't utilize that full charge. What's exciting about power delivery is I'm seeing new devices, CPAP machines and things that run on power delivery. You always want to use a USB-C over your inverter if you can. Disconnect the block from your computer and charge it with USB-C. Don't put the block into your phone and plug it into the inverter on this. It's always, always, always more efficient to run on your USBs than it is to use that block and plug it into an outlet. Very important stuff. The same thing is true, spinning it around, with the 12-volt side. You have a 12.6 regulated carport here, cigarette style plug. Even though the inverter on this thing is remarkably efficient, you always want to use this DC plug when you can. A portable refrigerator running on DC is always going to be more effective for energy conservation than running like a dorm fridge. There's a lot of reasons for that. I would have liked to see 2 of these plugs. I don't see that much on any power station, but my fridge stays plugged in all the time. Every once in a while, I have an additional device. I have like a little vacuum, and I have a thing that pumps up air mattresses that run on 12 volt. I don't like to have to unplug my fridge to do that. So, it'd be cool if they included 2 of these, but this is a remarkably efficient plug. I got high 80% out of this with very, very little parasitic draw, very little to no standby consumption. So some of the best performance on the DC that I've seen. They have the 5521s. They give you the little adapter. I don't meet a lot of people that are using those, but they're cool for powering little camp lights or things you want to tinker. It's a 3 amp limit on those. Now the big boy on this power station, it's these 6 20 amp outlets. The inverter on this device, I think, is the best I've ever tested on a power station. You can run like 2,400 watts out of this. It exceeds the capability of the outlets in my house. They advertise that you can run 99.9% of appliances off of this device. I'd be interested to see the device they're talking about that won't run on this. I put welders on it. I ran a bunch of silly stuff, and I couldn't even get this thing to distort its sine wave. Very, very good inverter. Now, in my tests, I got some that came out over 90% efficient. I had the lowest, I think, was like 88. I had some 91% efficiency tests out of this. I have not seen that on a power station since a couple of the old ones that really, they don't charge as fast. They have an NMC battery. They had a great inverter on them, but it didn't have anywhere near the capability of this power station, and it costs a lot more money. There is a feature that you can turn on that lets this thing draw like 3,600 watts. Please go into the app and turn the X boost off. You really don't need it. The way it achieves that over wattage, that over power capability, is by dropping the voltage and boosting the current. That's fine if you have like a yard sale hot plate or a little heater or things like that. It's okay to use that feature with devices that create heat out of electricity. You really have to be careful. If you plug a microwave in, or even like an induction top cooker, and go over that wattage, it will let you ruin the device before it trips. Without the X boost on, I was still able to make waffles and do a bunch of silly stuff. There really is no need to have that feature on unless you do your homework. You do your homework, learn how to use that X boost, and you can do some silly things that you probably shouldn't be with a power station anyway. So, best inverter in the business, I can say that. I don't think I've tested anything better. It also has a dynamite UPS. Now, I've talked about this a bunch. I'll try to do the quickest UPS explanation I can. Plug your power station into the wall, utility power. Plug something into this device, into the inverter. You'll hear a switch. It is going to draw utility power for that device. It does not touch the battery. But if you unplug it from the wall, the power goes out, lightning storm, you turn your generator off, the switch goes off fast enough that it continues to power your device in an uninterrupted fashion. EcoFlow calls it EPS, some made-up term, emergency power supply. I think they're trying to be very delicate, saying it might not be as fast as a standalone UPS. I tried it with everything. I plugged my computer in, yanked the plug. Laptop without a battery, yanked the plug. Wi-Fi router, yanked the plug. It worked on every device I tested it on. So people are still confusing that with pass-through charging. With a device that has pass-through charging, you're using the battery and charging the battery at the same time. So it might work like a UPS, but that up and down on the battery is very bad for it. It does fatigue a battery, especially if you're using a ternary lithium battery like a lot of those devices have. So the UPS is a huge leap forward. I've received emails from people that have fish tanks and sub pumps in their basement. If they leave home and the power goes out, their fish die and their basement floods. So the solution is to plug into something like this, and you can leave it that way when you're away from home. If you did that with a system that simply had pass-through charging, you would be causing a lot of unnecessary fatigue to the battery. I use my smaller EcoFlow on my Wi-Fi router. I lose power weekly where I live, and we don't get kicked off the Zoom call and all of that stuff. So that's the best explanation I can give you in a beginner-friendly way for the UPS. And that is about all on this power station. Let me give you the pros and cons. There is some downside to this. Nothing is perfect. And then my hope is that if you're in the market like this, maybe you will use the links in my description so you can support the channel and I can afford to keep giving unbiased reviews. They're kind of easy when devices are really good. I know people like the drama of trashing products, so I will give you the downsides of this product. This D2M has a real good build quality. Everything seems sturdy, but there is this front of house, back of house design on this, which means that when you're setting up in a cabin or at the campsite, I end up having to put it sideways, and I have charging stuff out the back, my solar wires, AC charging. The ways I'm using it are on this side, the USBs are on this side. It does make it take up like a lot more space than a normal portable power station. EcoFlow does that with their bigger systems. I'm not sure I'm really a fan. It might not matter to you, but I do like kind of the charging on the back and the discharging on the front. It kind of makes more sense to keep the things that you're plugging and unplugging in the same place. The other downside of this product was the difference between me telling you this was the best power station I've ever seen and one of the best power stations I've ever seen. They don't include a high current DC plug. Besides their little nifty plug that is very specific to EcoFlow products, the Delta Pro, all of the Gold Zeros since like the Ice Age, the AC models from Blue Eddy have a 25 to 30 amp regulated DC plug. I taught people how to disconnect the battery on their RV and plug it into that plug and use their power station as the best multi-purpose battery on the market with built-in charge controllers for solar. You can't do that when there's only a 8 to 10 amp plug on this thing. This one is a 10 amp. You can't plug it into a fuse block in a cabin and run the whole system of lights and water pumps and all those things because you will trip this low amperage outlet. I don't know how expensive it would have been to add that, but that would have made this the best power station on the market. And I would be able to tell people don't buy anything else. But if you're one of those people that see value in that, you're gonna have to step up to the Delta Pro, one of the AC series from Blue Eddy, or go back to something like a Gold Zero that has that high performance 30 amp plug, because these power stations can't do that one specific thing that has really changed the way I spend time outdoors. But yes, I would buy this. The price is outstanding. I don't know if the deal is gonna go up in a few weeks because they're still doing doorbuster deals. Please use the link in my description so I can keep the lights on if you are interested. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.